Hello, hi, and welcome to Meaningful Mondays with me, Rashmi Shetty, a space where I share my life lessons. Today's is inspired from a webinar that I attended last week, and they were talking about grief and why it is important to let go. It intrigued me to be part of that webinar because just week before last, when I was with a group of global coaches, and they asked me, "So Rashmi, how is India? How is Bangalore? We're reading horrible news." I never knew how much I was carrying because when I said not too good and I started sharing with them, I burst out crying. I broke down and I didn't even know I was carrying so much. Nobody in my immediate family is affected that I had to take it so personally, but just the heaviness of reading it and passing on information, hearing and listening to other people going through it was something that I never even realized was so much of hidden grief within me. Because when I broke down and I cried, and then went on to explain, and they had some really beautiful statements and words to console me. And once the meeting was over, I felt so much lighter. That's when I realized that most of us are not even aware of how much grief we are carrying just by reading all the WhatsApp forwards, the videos that are doing the rounds, the stories that the media is highlighting, all of it put together. We think we are not directly affected, but just reading it somewhere takes a space in our minds. And that's when last week, when there was this webinar on grief, I wanted to know how you overcome it, and so attended it. And I got a great takeaway. The speaker was sharing how the Mayan word for tumor translates to hardened tears. And I was like, how powerful is that? That's so true. Because grief, somewhere, when it is not shared, remains hardened inside. And that's why it is important to have an outlet. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to let go. It's okay to cry. And I think this is the time I will be more than happy to give you space and hold that space in case you want to share something. Because I saw the whole webinar is so powerful, but this was something that really stood out. And at that point, I walked in to the garden and I was having a look at it, and I noticed so many leaves falling off, some of them fully dry, some not too dry. And I realized that around us, plants give us such amazing life lessons. That's why there's no grief for plants. The most important lesson that they give is letting go. They let go of themselves to allow new sprouts to come from within. The old ones shed and move on. They make sure that when they are not hydrated enough, they ask for water if you're somebody who's aware of their language, or they shrivel up slightly so less water is transpired and is used for transpiration. And another very beautiful thing about plants is, especially after the rains that we had over the weekend, the moment they are soaked in that water, they look so happy and fresh, but always make sure that they're ready to soak the sunshine that follows. So for me, that was such a beautiful way of telling us what life is all about. Stay hydrated because that's very important for us as well. Soak in the sun. Soak in the sun, the early morning sun, mid morning sun, afternoon, evening, just about any sunlight coming into you can be equated metaphorically to some of those good moments that you can have with your loved ones. The next most important thing is they let go of that which is not required anymore far easily than we do. Whether it's their flowers. And another very beautiful lesson with flowers is they show us very clearly whether it's a water lily or a lotus that's growing in your water pond. It opens, stays open for some time, closes, opens again, gives you that joy, closes, and the third day it opens and then falls off. So, very powerful life lesson of you don't stay in bloom all the time. And I think all of this from nature is some amazing lessons that we can use in today's times, especially. Let go, cry, grieve. It's important to share grief and shed those tears. Otherwise, you don't know what all you're carrying. So be vulnerable and let go of that tears with somebody you trust. Second most important one is hydrate yourself, because we don't even realize we are thirsty sometimes when we are so lost in all that's happening, reading about it, sharing information, passing on information. And then the most important part, everyone's not going to be same all the time. There is a time to bloom, you bloom, and then afterwards you move on because life has the next bloom ready. And for me, all these little things that the plants showed, they also are very clear about their nourishment. They take it from the ground. You just give them a little space and they convert that space into a lovely patch of green without seeing how much they need to take, but they're always about giving. And I think the pandemic has taught us this so powerfully in the last 1.5 years. What are you doing in order to make sure that you're lending your shoulder or listening to somebody who wants to grieve? Are you creating that space? Be the plant that you can see around you and learn these powerful lessons of soaking the sunshine, letting go, taking the nourishment, and staying hydrated. And making sure that when in bloom, you're smiling away, but you won't be the same all the time. And it's just natural. Have a powerful and a meaningful week ahead. Stay safe, stay blessed.